The rain hammered against the windows of Adelaide Cottage that October evening, each drop like a tiny fist demanding entry. Inside, Sarah Mitchell stood frozen in the staff corridor, her phone clutched in trembling hands. She had just received a text message that would change everything, but she would never get the chance to read it. "Miss Mitchell." The voice came from behind her, firm and unwavering. "I need your mobile device. Now." She turned to see Commander James Hartley, head of the Royal Protection Command, his hand extended. His face was stone. Behind him stood two more guards, their expressions equally unreadable. This wasn't a request. Sarah's mind raced. She had worked at Adelaide Cottage for 3 years, caring for the Prince and Princess of Wales's children with devotion that went beyond duty. She had changed diapers, wiped tears, read bedtime stories. She had earned their trust. And now, this man in a dark suit was treating her like a security threat. "I don't understand," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "What's happening?" Commander Hartley's hand didn't waver. "Prince William has ordered a complete communication lockdown. Every staff member, every device, no exceptions." The words hit her like ice water. Around her, she could hear similar conversations happening throughout the cottage. The assistant chef arguing in the kitchen, the housekeeper pleading near the laundry room, the children's tutor stammering questions that went unanswered. Something was terribly wrong. Sarah handed over her phone, watching as Commander Hartley dropped it into a black signal-blocking bag. The small click of the seal felt final, like a door closing on her connection to the outside world. Her mother was in hospital. Her sister was expecting a baby any day. And now, she was cut off. If you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will shock you even more. "How long?" Sarah managed to ask, her throat tight. "Till further notice," Hartley replied. Then he leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. "And Miss Mitchell? Whatever you see or hear tonight, you never saw it. You never heard it. Do you understand?" She nodded, though she understood nothing at all. As the commander moved on to collect more devices, Sarah noticed something that made her blood run cold. Through the rain-streaked window, she could see vehicles arriving. Not the usual royal cars with their discreet elegance. These were black SUVs with tinted windows. It was a kind that appeared when something had gone catastrophically wrong. She counted 6 of them. The lights in the cottage flickered once, twice, then steadied. But the atmosphere had changed. The warm family home where children laughed and played had transformed into something else entirely. Something that felt like a fortress preparing for siege. From upstairs, she heard footsteps. Quick, urgent. Then Catherine's voice, strained and sharp in a way Sarah had never heard before. "William, they're saying it's already on 3 networks. We have maybe an hour before the door slammed shut, cutting off the rest." Sarah pressed herself against the wall, her heart hammering. The other staff members emerged from various rooms, all wearing the same expression of confused fear. They gathered in the corridor without speaking, the confiscated phones leaving phantom weights in their pockets. Nobody knew what was happening, but everyone knew it was bad. Then the lights went out completely, plunging Adelaide Cottage into darkness. And in that darkness, Sarah heard something that would haunt her forever, the sound of a child crying. And Catherine's voice trying desperately to soothe away a nightmare that had somehow become real. Asterisk, asterisk. The emergency lighting kicked in after 30 seconds that felt like 30 minutes. The dim red glow transformed Adelaide Cottage into something unfamiliar, almost threatening. Sarah could see the faces of her colleagues, pale and frightened in the crimson light. "What's protocol for this?" whispered Marcus, the groundskeeper who had worked for the royal family for 15 years. His hands shook as he spoke. "I've seen security drills, threats, even a suspicious package once, but nothing like this." Nobody answered because nobody knew. Commander Hartley reappeared at the top of the stairs, his silhouette sharp against the emergency lighting. "All staff to the drawing room. Immediately. Bring nothing. Say nothing." They moved as one, a silent procession through corridors they had walked 1,000 times before. But tonight, every shadow seemed to hide something. Every creak of the old floorboards sounded like a warning. The drawing room had been transformed. The curtains were drawn tight, sealed at the edges with what looked like blackout material. The furniture had been pushed to the walls, creating an empty space in the center. And standing there, his back rigid with tension, was Prince William. Sarah had seen him countless times laughing with his children, joking with staff, working at his desk in comfortable clothes. This man looked nothing like that. This man looked like his military training had taken over completely. His jaw was set, his eyes hard, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "I apologize for the disruption," he began, though his tone suggested this was not an apology, but a statement of fact. "What I'm about to tell you cannot leave this room. Not now, not ever. You will sign documents to that effect before you leave tonight." He paused, and Sarah saw his hands clench briefly at his sides before he forced them to relax. A member of the extended royal household made a grave error in judgment. A private conversation was recorded without consent. That recording contains information that, if released, would pose a direct threat to the safety of my family. Ow! The room felt smaller suddenly. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. The recording has been copied and is now in the hands of individuals who have made demands. We do not negotiate with blackmail, but we also do not take chances with the well-being of our children. Charlotte's name hung in the air unspoken, but everyone in that room thought it. Sweet Charlotte, who loved to draw horses and insisted on reading to herself before bed. George, who was learning about duty and service to young, and little Louis, who still believed the world was good. Catherine appeared in the doorway. She had changed from her earlier clothes into dark trousers and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back. She looked younger somehow, and absolutely terrified beneath her composed exterior. "The threat is credible," she said, her voice steady, despite the fear in her eyes. "It's specific, and it's time-sensitive." William placed a hand on her arm, a gesture so protective and tender that it made Sarah's throat tighten. These were not just royals. They were parents facing every parent's worst nightmare. "We believe someone on the inside may be involved," William continued. "Not necessarily in this household, but somewhere in the extended network, which means we trust no one. Starting now, all communications are monitored. All movements are logged. All visitors are screened." He looked at each staff member in turn. When his gaze reached Sarah, she saw something that made her want to cry, the desperate plea of a father who had no idea who to trust. "If any of you know anything at all about unusual questions, requests for information, people asking about schedules or security measures, you need to speak up now. Not tomorrow. Now." The silence was absolute. Then Marcus stepped forward, his face ashen. "Sir, his voice cracked. 2 weeks ago, a man approached me at the pub, asked casual questions about the cottage, about routines. I thought he was just making conversation." "I didn't name," Hartley demanded, pulling out a tablet that had somehow escaped the device collection, as Marcus stammered through details. Sarah felt a cold realization settling over her. This wasn't going to end tonight. Whatever was happening, whatever threat loomed over this family, it was just beginning, and they were all trapped inside Adelaide Cottage until someone figured out who could be trusted. The interrogation room had once been William's study. Now it felt like something from a police procedural, with harsh portable lighting and 2 chairs facing each other across his antique desk. Sarah sat in one of those chairs, her hands folded in her lap to stop them from shaking. Commander Hartley sat across from her, his tablet glowing between them like a judge's gavel. "Walk me through Tuesday afternoon," he said, not unkindly, but with the precision of someone who would catch every inconsistency. Every detail. Sarah had already been through this twice. Once with a junior officer, once with Hartley's second-in-command. Each time, she told the same story because it was the truth. Tuesday afternoon, she had taken George and Charlotte to their piano lesson in Windsor. They had returned at 4:30. She had helped with homework. Made them a snack. Nothing unusual. Nothing suspicious. But Hartley's eyes said he didn't believe in coincidences. "The piano teacher," he said, scrolling through notes. "Mrs. Eleanor Frost. How long has she been working with the children?" 2 years. Maybe a bit more. And she's always been reliable? On time? Professional? Sarah nodded, then froze. Wait, last Tuesday she was late. Only by 10 minutes, but Charlotte mentioned it because they lost practice time for her recital piece. Hartley's fingers moved across the tablet. And did Mrs. Frost explain why she was late? She said there was an accident on the motorway. Traffic was backed up, but you didn't verify that? The question felt like an accusation. Sarah's chest tightened. I'm a nanny, not a security officer. I thought that's the problem, Miss Mitchell. Everyone thought, no one verified. The words stung, but Hartley's expression softened slightly. I'm not blaming you, but the threat we're facing is sophisticated. These people have been planning for months. Every small crack in routine was an opportunity. Every moment of trust was potentially exploited. From somewhere above them, footsteps paced back and forth. William Sarah realized. Wearing a path on the floor while his children slept and his world crumbled. Can I ask something? Sarah ventured. Hartley nodded once. The recording? What exactly she stopped, seeing his face close off? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have its audio of a conversation between a senior royal and a foreign national. Hartley said carefully, weighing each word. The content relates to matters of national security and private family information that could be weaponized. The individual who made the recording is believed to be part of a larger network. Network of what? Journalists. Criminals. Both. Neither. The lines are blurrier than you'd think. He leaned back, and for the first time he looked tired. 15 years ago, this would have been simpler. A tabloid sting, maybe. Embarrassing, but manageable. Now, there are entities out there for intelligence services. Organized criminal groups. Even wealthy individuals with agendas who see the royal family as a chess piece. Information is currency. Leverage is power. Sarah thought of the black SUVs outside. The armed guards patrolling the grounds. The way Catherine's hands had trembled when she thought no one was looking. Are the children really in danger? She asked quietly. Hartley's pause told her everything she needed to know. We received a message 3 hours ago, he finally said. It contained a photograph, recent, of Charlotte leaving her school. The photographer was standing close enough to capture the pattern on her backpack, close enough to touch her. The room spun. Sarah gripped the edge of the desk. That's why we're in lockdown, Hartley continued. That's why William ordered the digital blackout. Every phone is a potential tracking device. Every social media post is a location marker. Every casual photo shared with friends could reveal patterns, vulnerabilities. Right. But we're staff. We don't post about work. We signed NDAs years ago, Miss Mitchell. They don't need you to post. They need your phone's metadata. Your location history. Your contact list. If your device is compromised, they can see through its camera. Listen through its microphone. Track every place you go. The weight of his words settled over her like a suffocating blanket. She thought of her phone, now sealed in that black bag somewhere in the cottage. She had felt violated when it was taken. Now she felt grateful. So what happens now? She asked. We find the leak, and we neutralize the threat. Hartley stood, signaling the end of the interview. Until then, Miss Mitchell, you're confined to the cottage. All of you are. I know it's difficult, but the door burst open. A young officer, face flushed, breathing hard. Sir, we have a situation. The perimeter alarm on the east gate just triggered. 2 vehicles. No identification. Hartley was moving before the officer finished speaking. Get the family to the safe room, now. And just like that, the nightmare got worse. Sarah found herself running before her mind could process the command. The emergency protocols she had been trained on years ago flooded back away from windows. Stay low. Follow the security team. But nothing had prepared her for the reality of armed guards sprinting through the cottage. Weapons drawn, shouting coordinates into their radios. The staff was herded into the library. A room in the center of the building with no exterior walls. Sarah pressed herself against a bookshelf, her legs weak. Beside her, the assistant chef was praying in Spanish, rapid whispers that sounded like a heartbeat. Stay down, ordered a guard whose name Sarah didn't know. He positioned himself at the door, scanning the corridor beyond with mechanical precision. Through the walls, Sarah could hear movement above them. The family being moved to wherever the safe room was hidden. She had worked here for 3 years and never knew there was a safe room. How many other secrets did Adelaide Cottage hold? The minutes crawled past. 5, 10, 15. Then, sound that made her blood freeze. Charlotte's voice, high and frightened, calling for her mother. The sound was cut off abruptly, followed by Catherine's soothing murmur. But the damage was done. Every person in that library knew that the children were awake now, aware that something was wrong. Aware that their parents were afraid, Sarah's eyes burned with tears. She refused to let fall. After 20 minutes that felt like 20 hours, Commander Hartley appeared in the doorway. His face was unreadable, but Sarah had learned to notice the small signs. The tight set of his shoulders had eased slightly. The grip on his radio had loosened. "False alarm," he announced. 2 vehicles belonged to off-duty protection officers responding to the perimeter alert. Miscommunication in the chain of command. The relief in the room was palpable, but it felt hollow. A false alarm tonight didn't mean tomorrow would be the same. However, Hartley continued, "We're implementing stricter measures. The family is moving locations at dawn. Somewhere more secure." "More remote? For how long?" asked Mrs. Patterson, the head housekeeper, voicing what everyone was thinking. "Until we resolve this situation," Hartley's eyes swept the room. "Some of you will be asked to accompany the family. Others will be sent home with security escorts and monitoring protocols in place. We'll conduct individual assessments over the next few hours." As the staff began to disperse under guard supervision, Sarah felt a hand on her arm. She turned to find Catherine standing there, still wearing that same dark sweater, her face drawn but determined. "Sarah, could I speak with you?" "Privately." They walked to a small sitting room, a guard stationed outside the door. Catherine sank into a chair and gestured for Sarah to do the same. For a long moment, she said nothing, just stared at her hands folded in her lap. When she looked up, her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. "Charlotte asked for you," she said quietly. "When we moved her to the safe room, she was frightened and she wanted you there." Sarah's throat closed. "I'm so sorry. I wish I could have nothing to apologize for." Catherine's voice was firm. "You've been wonderful with our children, which is why I wanted to ask you myself, rather than having Hartley tell you. We need you to come with us. To wherever we're going. The children need stability, familiar faces. They need to feel like their world isn't completely falling apart, even though it is." "Of course," Sarah said without hesitation. "Whatever you need." Catherine's composure cracked slightly. "I keep thinking about Diana, about how the press and the threats and the constant intrusion drove her to desperation. I promised myself when I married William that I would never let that happen to our family, that I would protect our children from that kind of violation." She laughed, a bitter sound. "But here we are, hiding in our own home, treating loyal staff like suspects, wondering if the person who drives our children to school might be selling information to the highest bidder. This isn't your fault," Sarah said firmly. "No, but it's my responsibility to fix it." Catherine stood, smoothing her sweater with hands that trembled slightly. "William is meeting with intelligence services in an hour. They believe they've identified at least one member of the network, someone close to the family. Very close." The implication hung in the air between them. "You think it's someone in this household?" Sarah said slowly. "I think it's someone who has access to our daily routines, our private conversations, our vulnerabilities." Catherine moved to the window, though the curtains remained tightly closed. "Hartley has narrowed it down to 5 people. 5 individuals who were in position to know what that recording contained before it was leaked. 5 people who have the technical knowledge to orchestrate something this sophisticated." She turned back to Sarah, and the look in her eyes was haunted. "One of those 5 people has been putting my children to bed, reading them stories, earning their trust while planning to exploit it." The accusation hit Sarah like a physical blow. "You think it's me?" "I think," Catherine said carefully, "that I don't know who to trust anymore, and that terrifies me more than any threat." Sarah didn't sleep. How could she, knowing that Catherine kind, gracious Catherine who had trusted her with her children's lives, now looked at her with suspicion. She lay on the small bed in the staff quarters, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 3 years. Searching for something, anything, that might explain how she had become a suspect. At 4 a.m, her door opened. Commander Hartley stood in the doorway, his expression grim. "Shh. Miss Mitchell, come with me." The walk through the silent cottage felt like a march to execution. They passed the children's rooms where armed guards now stood sentinel. They passed William's study where lights still blazed despite the hour. They descended stairs Sarah had never used before, down into what must have been the cottage's original basement. The room at the bottom was modern, clinical. Banks of computer monitors lined one wall, displaying security footage from dozens of angles. And sitting at a terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard, was a woman Sarah recognized but had never formally met. "This is Agent Morrison, MI5, Hartley said. "She's been working this case for 6 weeks. Since before the threat became active." Morrison looked up, adjusting her glasses. She was younger than Sarah expected, perhaps 30, with the exhausted eyes of someone who had been awake too long. "Miss Mitchell, I need to show you something. It's going to be disturbing." The screen changed, displaying an email chain. Sarah's eyes widened as she recognized named staff members, security personnel, even a member of the extended royal family. The emails discussed schedules, movements, security protocols, information that should never have been shared so casually. "This network has been in place for 8 months, Morrison explained. What started as a tabloid sting operation was infiltrated by a foreign intelligence service. They turned one of the original members, promised money and protection in exchange for deeper access." She clicked through more documents. Photos of the cottage, floor plans, daily schedules written in meticulous detail. "We've been monitoring communications, building a case. But 2 days ago, something changed. The group went dark, encrypted everything, started making moves we couldn't track." Morrison's expression hardened. That's when the recording surfaced. And with it, the threat against the children. "Why are you telling me this?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because we need your help," Hartley said. "The 5 suspects Catherine mentioned, you're not one of them. You were never a suspect. You were a test." Sarah's mind reeled. A test. "We needed to see how information flowed through the household," Morrison explained. "How quickly things were repeated. Who talked to whom. Catherine was briefed to tell you specifically that there were 5 suspects, including you. That information was unique to you. If it leaked, we would know. And did it? No, which is why we're here." Hartley pulled up a chair, gesturing for Sarah to sit. 15 minutes ago, one of the actual suspects made contact with their handler. We intercepted the communication. They're planning something for tonight. Something that involves using knowledge of how we've secured the family. Sarah's hands went cold. "What do they want?" "The original plan was blackmail," Morrison said. "Release the recording, force concessions, extract money. Standard criminal operation. But our foreign intelligence player has different goals. They want to embarrass the monarchy, undermine public trust, create an international incident." She pulled up another screen, this one showing a news website template, ready to publish. The headline made Sarah's stomach turn. "Royal family covers up security breach, children at risk. This goes live in 4 hours unless we stop it," Morrison continued. "But here's the problem. If we arrest the suspects now, we lose the entire network. These people will scatter, regroup, try again. We need them to make their move. And we need someone on the inside they don't suspect." Implication was clear. Sarah shook her head. "You want me to be bait?" "We want you to do what you do every day," Hartley corrected. "Care for the children. Be present. Be observant. The person we're looking for will make a mistake. They'll check a device they shouldn't have. Take a call they think is private. Access an area that's now restricted. Who is it?" Sarah demanded. "Who are the suspects?" Morrison and Hartley exchanged glances. Finally, Hartley spoke. "Mrs. Eleanor Frost, the piano teacher. She's been passing information about the children's schedules for 6 months. Thomas Ashford, The assistant private secretary, he has access to William's calendar and correspondence. Dr. Patricia Webb. Charlotte's pediatrician, perfect position to know medical information and create emergencies. Marcus Riley, our groundskeeper, who you heard admit to being approached. And he paused, and Sarah saw genuine sadness in his eyes. And David Mitchell. Your brother. The room tilted. Sarah gripped the edge of the desk, her vision tunneling. No, David wouldn't. He's never even been here. He lives in London. He works in IT support. He has gambling debts totaling over £200,000, Morrison said gently. He was approached 3 months ago with an offer. Pay off his debts in exchange for accessing your phone remotely, installing monitoring software. Your phone, Miss Mitchell, has been the window into this household for 12 weeks.
How?
Sarah couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her own brother, the person she had trusted most in the world, had turned her into an unwitting spy. We gave you a clean phone earlier when we collected devices, Hartley said. We needed to cut off his access. But he doesn't know we're onto him, which means he'll try to make contact. He'll want to know why the surveillance stopped. And when he does, we'll have him, Morrison finished. And the entire network with him. Sarah looked between them, these strangers asking her to betray her own blood, asking her to choose between family and the family she had been chosen to serve. What do I have to do? She asked. Dawn broke cold and gray over Adelaide Cottage. Sarah stood at the window of the children's playroom, watching the security team perform their final sweeps before the planned relocation. Behind her, George was quietly building with blocks while Charlotte practiced drawing horses in her sketchbook. Louis slept in the next room, blissfully unaware that his world had become a battlefield. The clean phone in Sarah's pocket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Morrison had explained the plan 3 times, making sure Sarah understood every detail. When David reached out and he would reach out, Sarah was to respond normally. Act confused about the phone change. Agree to meet him. Lead him into a location where MI5 could make the arrest with minimal risk to the family. Sarah's hands trembled as she helped Charlotte with her drawing. This was her brother. The boy who had protected her from bullies in school, the man who had held her hand at their mother's funeral, the person she would have trusted with her life, and he had sold her. Sold them all, Sarah. Charlotte's small voice broke through her thoughts. Are we in danger? The question hung in the air, too mature for a child who should be worrying about homework and playdates. Sarah knelt down, meeting Charlotte's eyes, William's eyes, ancient and knowing despite her young age. Your parents are making sure you're safe, Sarah said carefully. There are some people who want to know things about your family that should be private. But everyone here is working to protect you. It's like the guards outside my room. Yes, sweetheart. Like them. Charlotte was quiet for a moment, her pencil moving across the paper. I heard Mummy crying last night. She thought I was asleep, but I wasn't. Sarah's heart broke. Your mom loves you very much. Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're worried, even when everything is going to be okay. Is everything going to be okay? Before Sarah could answer, her phone buzzed. A text message. From David. Hey sis. Heard you got a new phone? Everything okay? Can't reach you on the old number. Her throat closed. Morrison had told her that David would play it casual at first. Test the waters. See if Sarah suspected anything. She typed back with shaking fingers. Yeah, work. Phone got waterlogged. This is temporary. All good here, you. The response came immediately. Need to see you. Important. Family stuff. Can you get away? Even for an hour. Family stuff. The phrase they had used since childhood for serious conversations. Their mother's illness had been family stuff. David's divorce had been family stuff. And now he was weaponizing their private code to manipulate her. Sarah glanced at Charlotte. Still drawing her horses, oblivious to the betrayal unfolding in the palm of Sarah's hand. She thought of William's sleepless eyes, Catherine's trembling hands, the armed guards outside the children's rooms. She thought of everything her brother had put at risk for money. I can't leave right now. Big security thing at work? Maybe next week? She typed, I can't wait. Please, Sarah, I'm in trouble. Real trouble. Need your help? There it was. The hook. The cry for help designed to bypass her rational mind and trigger her protective instincts. A wave of grief washed over her, not for what David had done, but for the person he had been before desperation turned him into this. Morrison had given her a script for this moment, a way to draw him out without alerting the network that they were compromised. But as Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard, Charlotte spoke again. "Sarah, who are you texting?" Sarah looked at the little girl, then at her phone, then back again. In that moment, she understood what Catherine had meant about protecting her children from the kind of violation that had destroyed. "Diana, this wasn't about politics or protocol. It was about keeping 3 innocent children safe from people who would exploit them for profit. People like her own brother." "Just someone I used to know," Sarah said quietly. Then she typed, "Where are you right now?" David's response included an address. A cafe in Windsor, public and crowded. Smart, Sarah thought bitterly. Hard to arrest someone in a crowd without causing a scene. "I can meet you at 2 p.m., but I can only stay for 20 minutes. Thank you. You're saving my life, sis." Sarah forwarded the messages to Morrison, then pocketed the phone. Her hands had stopped shaking. In their place was a cold, clear determination. At 1:45 p.m., Sarah left Adelaide Cottage under the guise of running an errand. 2 protection officers accompanied her in civilian clothes. While Morrison coordinated from a van parked 3 blocks from the cafe, she saw David through the window before she entered. He looked terrible and shaven, too thin, dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and impossible choices. When he saw her, his face lit up with relief so genuine that Sarah almost turned around. Almost she sat down across from him. "What's going on, David?" He leaned forward, his voice urgent and low. "I need you to do something for me. Something that might seem strange, but I promise it's important. I need you to install monitoring software on my new phone." Sarah interrupted quietly. David froze. The color drained from his face. "Or maybe just tell you the family's new location. Their security protocols? How to access their private conversations." Sarah's voice was steady, though her heart was shattering. "How much are they paying you, David? How much is our family worth?" "Sarah, I can explain. I'm wearing a wire," she said. "And there are 5 officers in this cafe right now. You're going to stand up slowly. You're going to come with them quietly. And you're going to tell them everything about who you're working for." Ruther's face crumpled. "I didn't have a choice. The debts, they were going to kill me. I never meant for anyone to get hurt. I swear I never—" "You put children at risk?" Sarah said, and her voice finally broke. "You used me? You betrayed people who never did anything to you except exist as an opportunity for profit." Morrison appeared at David's shoulder, flashing credentials. "David Mitchell, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit blackmail, illegal surveillance, and violations of the Official Secrets Act." As they led him away, David looked back at Sarah with tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry," he mouthed. Sarah didn't respond. She sat in that cafe for 10 minutes after they left, staring at her untouched coffee, feeling the weight of what she had just done settle into her bones. Her phone buzzed. A text from Catherine. "Thank you. The children are asking for you. Come home when you're ready." Home. Adelaide Cottage, with its secrets and shadows, its armed guards and encrypted communications. A place where children lived behind walls built from necessity and fear, but also a place where those same children laughed and played and drew horses and built towers from blocks. Sarah stood, paid for the coffee she hadn't drunk, and walked out into the gray afternoon. By evening, the arrests were complete. All 5 suspects in custody, the recording secured, the foreign intelligence operation exposed and neutralized, the network dismantled, and in Adelaide Cottage, as darkness fell, Sarah read Charlotte and George a bedtime story while their parents held each other in the next room. The guards remained outside the doors. The phones stayed in their signal-blocking bags. The trauma of the ordeal would linger for months, maybe years. But tonight the children were safe. Tonight the nightmare had ended. And sometimes, Sarah thought, as she kissed Charlotte's forehead and dimmed the lights, sometimes that had to be enough.